Welcome back to Simple Truth, where we try to make some simple truths out of, in this case, the story of David. Have been in the story of David for a very, very long time. We're in 1 Samuel. We're in chapter 24. We're starting with verse 8, right? It says this: after David also arose and went out of the cave, and he called after Saul, "My lord the king." And when Saul looked at him, David bowed with his face to the earth and paid homage. Right? And David said to Saul, "Why do you listen to the words of men who say, 'Behold, David seeks you harm'?" Right? Again, these couple verses are super important, right? Because sometimes we're asking questions, right, that cut through. Sometimes we're just asking questions and they're muddying up the water, but sometimes we ask questions that cut through, right, all of the mess, all of the chaos, right? It clears up vision. Right? And so David is in the cave. Saul comes in. They tell him, "Hey, God must have delivered him into your hands. You should kill him. Let me kill him." And David persuades the men not to do that. Right? Again, we talked about that last time. And we've talked about the fact that, man, sometimes we need to persuade people not to do the thing that seems right to them, but instead that they hang on to the righteousness idea. Right? What is right according to God? And David is educating these men. He's teaching these men. And sometimes that comes through practical personal application. We don't like that. Right? We don't like this idea that God could actually make me have to go through something so I can teach it to other people, this battle that I'm going through. We like to hide the battles, and then at the end maybe we'll reference it a little bit, like, I was going through this or this or this, and it was kind of hard. No, people want to see. That's why people love reality television. People want to see the battle. We're so gung-ho about hiding our battles. We just fear. Nobody can know that I'm battling this. How many times does somebody go through depression or anxiety or things like this, and then they get out the other side and they're like, "Oh, you guys just don't understand how bad." No, we didn't understand how bad it was because you didn't say anything, right? A lot of times we go through battles and we make them longer than they need to be because all the resources we need to fight the battle are left on the sideline. We're not humble enough to go to the sideline and say, "Hey, I need some help." Right? I need a breather for a second. Can you carry this? Can you do this for me? Can you help me with this? Instead, we think we got a battle out there on the field alone. It's one of the things that the enemy sets up, right, for you and I. We gotta hide our struggles. We gotta hide our sin. And part of that is because he reminds us of what's going to happen if we quit hiding it. He reminds us of what's going to happen when people find out. Listen, there's always, I've gone through it, right, where man, you ask. I can remember asking a pastor once, "Is there any hope?" And he said, "No, I wouldn't call it hope. I would say there's some empathy," right? And you look at that and say, "Well, what are you talking about? Where in the Bible does it say, hey, faith, hope, and empathy," right? So faith, love, and empathy are the things that you need to rely on. No, we need to have hope. And sometimes hope is, hey, this person made it through it and they're okay. Sometimes hope is, hey, I fell down, but I got people who are going to help me get back up. And we persuade people to do the right things. And then David follows Saul out of the cave. He doesn't just let Saul go away, right? He follows Saul out and he says and does something that is important. He recognizes the authority of Saul. We got a real problem with that in our society today. I sit in pastoral circles sometimes, and we were talking about it this morning during prayer, that sometimes there's just a jockeying of position. You watch these pastors, they're trying to figure out who's got the most education, who's got the most authority, who's got the most time served, right? Who's supposed to be the voice. And you see the younger ones, well, maybe they're going to try to balk the whole system and like, hey, no, I don't have a lot of time, but I know lots of stuff. Right? And you see the older ones who sit back and they go, "Oh, I'm going to just wait till somebody asks me." Right? I'm going to wait to do stuff. We got all over the place. Right? Where we have these moments where we're trying to figure out, do I put myself under this authority? Do I not? Do I recognize it? Do I not? Right? And in this case, David recognizes the authority of Saul. And he bows down. Why? Because Saul's the king. right? Sometimes just that little bit of a gesture breaks through all of the cloudiness, clears up the spiritual cataracts, clears up the vision, and somebody feels like, hey, I've been respected, right? So now, now I'm going to look at this differently. Now I'm going to see things differently. People just want to be listened to. They want to be heard, right? Now in this case, David didn't do anything wrong, and this is all Saul and an evil spirit thing. But still, at the crux of this is giving respect, right, to a position. Doesn't matter whether they earned it or not. You don't have to like your pastor to respect him. You could think that he's wrong. You might even think that he needs to go. But you can still respect the title of pastor. You can respect your boss for having the title that he or she does. Right? This is an important spiritual concept because God tells us to do that. Submit yourself to the authorities. The only time we get to buck authorities is when God tells us to buck authorities. And for all those people who are out there who don't hear from God on a regular basis, right, you have a problem. Because you're going to be bucking authority with like, wait, how do you know that God told you to buck authority there? Right. So these things are important, right? These things are important, and they cut through this whole thing. Next time, we want to talk about what happened as a result of what David did. So chew on that for a minute. We'll see you next time right here on Simple Truth.